Harper, do you know your attachment style?
Do we know our attachment styles? I don't have a clue about attachment styles. I'm attached to her. I hope she's attached to me. That's about all I can say about that.
What is it about people that causes them to come off as insecure? Is it the lack of confidence in their voice? Is it their eager desire for validation from others? The way they change or hide the things about themselves that make them insecure? Going even further, what is it that causes people to be insecure in the first place? Like most of the realm of social psychology, the answer lies in their upbringing. Within the first 18 months of life, children develop attachment styles with their parents that will determine their degree of relational security or insecurity. According to Laura Guerrero, author of the 1996 textbook Close Encounters, Communication in Relationships, attachment style refers to the social interaction style consistent with the type and quality of relationship one wishes to share with others based on working models of self and others. Guerrero goes on to explain that these attachment styles include a person's communication style and the way a person processes, interprets, or reacts to the behavior of others. Essentially, attachment styles are what cause people to be secure or insecure in their relationships with others.
Well, we met at a bar when I was about 25, 26. We dated for about 11 months, got engaged, and then we were married 6 months later.
We met when we were 14 years old for the first time. Our families knew each other, but the family spent a weekend together, and we went our separate ways for a decade before we reconnected.
So we met in high school. Just met her one night through mutual friends, and
we met 2 years ago at the restaurant we both worked at the time and became best friends.
Let's see, so we met when we were relatively young, and it was a complete fate type of thing. Just you go out and all of a sudden there's that person.
Kyle and I met because he was my freshman year boyfriend's suite mate in the dorms.
Well, and then we met again senior year at a bar, club, and then
at the club backcountry.
and then we kind of just hit it off from there.
If we look at the quadrant pictured here, the horizontal axis represents the degree of relational anxiety, and the vertical axis represents the degree of relational avoidance. By determining an individual's level of both anxiety and avoidance, we can place them at a specific point on the graph to tell whether they fall under a secure, preoccupied, dismissing, or fearful attachment style.
Secure individuals are comfortable with intimacy, depending on others and having others depend on them. This is a result of the positive other, positive self model. They are not irrationally concerned about their partner's feelings towards them because they are confident in themselves and in their relationship. Those with secure attachment styles have positive expectations for the relationship and a high capacity for intimate and satisfying personal relationships. These people have a friendly and positive view of others. They are flexible and able to adapt to a variety of situations and partners. Comfortable with intimacy, depending on others, and having the other person depend on them, they are secure in their relationship because they are confident in themselves and self-sufficient. Those with a dismissive attachment style are characterized by intimacy avoidance and low levels of disclosure. These individuals are highly avoidant and experience low levels of anxiety in their relationships. They have a positive perception of self, but a negative perception of others. In the aforementioned text by Guerrero, she describes their style of communication as being detached. They neither desire nor fear close relationships, but are instead unmotivated in initiating or maintaining intimate relationships. Uncomfortable with intimacy, depending on others and opening up to others, dismissive people consistently demonstrate lower amounts of affection than those with other attachment styles, and may even be perceived as cold or emotionally unavailable. They are relatively low maintenance when compared to their other insecurely attached counterparts, but because their behavior may border misanthropic, they are often difficult to get close to. Their antisocial tendencies become activated as a defense mechanism that protects their self-image at the expense of relationships through behaviors such as hostility, contempt, pity, or gloating. The fearful avoidant attachment style is characterized by the negative other, negative self model. It reflects a pervasive tendency to avoid social situations because of high anxiety and fear of rejection. When involved in relationships, they are likely to be reticent, passive, and avoid communicating intimacy or conveying emotion. Oftentimes, they withdraw and become nervous about their participation in conversation with others. Lack of communication experience can impair these people's interactions, creating low social skills and high anxiety. They desire intimacy, but often retreat from intimate relationships and intimate interaction because they fear rejection. This presents a constant internal struggle in the individual between desiring closeness and intimacy with a partner and being fearful of facing rejection or abandonment with the person they allow themselves to become close with. Like the dismissive individual, the fearful avoidant person often inadvertently secludes his or herself. But unlike the dismissive, the fearful avoidant doesn't desire isolation. Their solitary tendencies are a result of desperation and not out of love for privacy. Preoccupied individuals score extremely low on avoidance and extremely high on anxiety. These are people who tend to be labeled clingy in relationships, the ones who get worried or angry when a significant other takes longer than usual getting home, or even takes a long time responding to a text message. They crave excessive intimacy and worry that the other person is not or will not be available when needed. They want to rely on the other person and have that person depend on them, but commonly feel the need to gain approval from others. People with this type of insecure attachment style have a positive perception of others, especially their relationship partner, but a negative perception of self. This can be harmful to relationships because these individuals require more maintenance behaviors than those with other attachment styles. The preoccupied lack confidence and oftentimes feel lost, unloved, and unable to cope, leading them to reach out to another person and cling to that relationship.
How would I consider our communication? I would say we have Karen and I have very good communication for the most part. Occasionally, there are things that we do that are, get on each other's nerves, but we tend to talk about it, we talk it out, and we've always had we always are concerned about the other in our communication. So we want not only it's not just about being heard, but it's about being understood. And so we always work towards that, being understood if there's ever an issue or a hiccup or something like that within the relationship.
I think our communication is pretty good. Like every couple, we have our struggles, but at the same time, you work through them, and overall, I think it's pretty strong.
I think that we have good communication. I think that we're able to bring things up without getting in an argument.
I think we have communicated in general pretty well. We talk to each other about things. We don't lie. I know I don't lie to my wife. She doesn't lie to me. And we always try to be honest and talk things through.
Well, I would say over time it's definitely gotten, it has gotten stronger. We've both become more outspoken about our communication. Maybe in the beginning we held back more, and now I feel that we can pretty quickly pinpoint what it is we want to communicate about.
She's not the best texter, but it's really good. She definitely is a lot better in person. Nothing's gonna be perfect. I don't hold it against her, because when she comes and sees me in person, then she's herself. It's nothing debilitating when we're away from each other.
Right.
Our communication is difficult at times and definitely a work in progress. Our main methods of communication are we text throughout the day and then talk on the phone most nights. But since we only see each other on the weekends, we rely very heavily on technology to keep our long-distance relationship and our long-distance communication.
How would you consider your communication with your owner? Pretty good? Pretty vocal? All of the above?
the strengths of our communication, I think we believe in there's some passage in the Bible that talks about, don't let the sun go down on your anger. And that's something that we've always thought is important. It's like, we don't want to go to bed if we're mad at each other. It's like, talk it out, find a way to communicate. In the rare times that we have, it's like we wake up the next day and we know we've got to deal with it. We have to address it.
Well, people say don't ever go to bed mad, but we've gone to bed mad a lot. So I'm not sure that I can ever actually ascribe to that, because that's never worked, because it's just who we are. But somehow we go to bed mad, but we wake up okay. So it's kind of the reverse.
Yeah.
I would say the strengths are that we have empathy for each other. Although we have hard times, like any couple, we cut each other a break. I would say we're very similar.
Would you say that your communication styles are similar or different?
No, they're totally opposite.
We're both goofy and weird people.
We could just talk about things and it never really turns into an argument. We bond over food a lot.
She bonds over spending money, and I don't bond over money.
She's very easy to talk to. She's very open with everything. She's very honest. Yeah, she's a really good communicator.
We have a lot of common interests and we care for each other a lot. So we do the best we can to communicate effectively. It's been difficult at times, but I believe a lot of the strength in our relationship comes from our ability to talk through our issues and come out stronger.
Do you know your attachment style?
Obviously the more time you spend together and the more you get to know someone and the more you trust them and the more that you depend on them and the more that they prove that you can depend on them, it puts you in a good position. In my situation, it can put me in being secure in that relationship. I tend to be a fairly confident and perhaps overconfident at times type of a person, and that confidence is in my relationship with Karen as well. And so when I think about how we communicate, it's no surprise that I came out as being secure in that relationship and in my attachment style.
It makes complete sense now how our attachment styles affect the communication in our relationship. We literally are the exact opposite attachment styles, which would obviously make things difficult. Our attachment styles definitely make sense based on our upbringing and our past and current relationships. I come from a loud, open Italian family with very little discretion when it comes to telling people how you really feel. Jimmy, on the other hand, was the youngest of 3 boys. Both his older brothers needed a lot of attention for various reasons, so Jimmy was left on his own a lot as a kid. He's learned to figure things out himself, be very dependent, and not very emotional. It's great because he's confident and rarely anxious about really anything. He's very cool and collected, but he also is toward that high avoidance, so he's more reserved and not one to bring up issues or resolve conflict without being prompted.
I would say it doesn't make sense with my upbringing, but it's just who I am. I probably maybe differ a little bit in that my parents have had a strong marriage for over 50 years. So that probably has some impact. It's because, we didn't have that great of a relationship, but I feel like a lot of that isn't necessarily, from your parents. It's basically who you are.
Yeah.
Or your own experiences.
Right.
Being comfortable in who you are and being comfortable in knowing your worth and what you want in a relationship drives what you ultimately get in a relationship. So I'm not sure that you can define everything as to how you were brought up or what was past, but what you want and, you know, what you want to have in your life.
Mm-hmm.
The family that I have now is the outcome of my attachment style. A strong family, you know, loving children, husband, you know, just solid. So I would say that's it.
Although attachment styles aren't set in stone and may fluctuate throughout our lives, they do play a significant role in the way we interact with our families, friends, and partners. Like any other aspect of interpersonal communication, learning about ourselves is the key to understanding and relating to others. Communication isn't one size fits all. Because everyone has their own unique personality, our communication with one another must be tailored to that individual. Attachment styles play as important a role in our identity as any other trait. As we develop deeper relationships with others, it is important that we be aware of our similarities and differences. It requires self-reflection and willingness to relinquish our own perceptions of identities, neither of which come naturally. However, in deepening our own self-awareness, we are able to access the tools necessary to develop stronger and more genuine relationships with the people around us.
What kind of attachment style are
Harper,
you? You're obviously the insecure one that needs attention.
I feel like Harper, I feel like you're, I would say low anxiety, but insecure attachment. No, secure attachment. I don't know. She just likes to be cuddled.
She likes attention.
As she leaves.